I got a dual 1219 turntable in for service. This came from another, I guess, hobbyist. I don't know. Client brought it to me. He bought it from a guy that said it had been totally serviced, but the automatic didn't work. And upon inspection, I found that it was missing the stirrer pimple. But it's got more than that, because it does have an automatic problem that we're going to have to look at and see if we can resolve. Let's check it out. I'm working on a dual 1219, and this one. And I'm also back on the AX53, the FDR AX53 camera. So this is the one that, well, I'll give you a quick demo. I'm on the left side of the camera now, and I probably sound like crap because the mic is going to pick me up only from the left channel. And as I move across to the right channel, as you can hear, this thing has ridiculous separation on it, and it really, I don't think, has as good a sound as the other. Now I'm talking directly below the camera, so right dead center, which is normally where I'm operating. But this one here, I gotta watch it, because if I even move, I'm about 3 inches to the left. My mouth is basically in line with the little flip out screen. I'm standing just slightly left of the camera, and now I'm in the center, and now I'm about 3 inches to the right of the camera. That gives you an idea how the mic on this performs compared to the other one. I don't think it's got as good a sound as my other camera anyway. Somebody, I'm sure, will complain about that. This one here, it doesn't work. And the guy that brought me this said that he bought it from somebody who tried servicing it, and he just couldn't get it. He could not get it to work. I'm going to guess it's the stirrer pimple before I even open this thing up. I bet you it's missing or whatever, but let's find out. Let's open this thing up and see if there's any pieces missing. Nice big old heavy dual. And here's our problem here. You see, there is no stirrer pimple on here. It's completely missing. And that would explain why it's not moving the tone arm as it should. Alright, I've got a new stirrer pimple. We're going to replace this one from this unit that has a missing piece. Remove the main control arm again. And this is the stirrer pimple. It's just a little piece of rubber that fits over the little pin right here. So it goes right here, right on that little piece, just like that. And its job, of course, is to provide the correct amount of friction so that the control arm here can move the tone arm back and forth. And when it wears out, it will not pick up. It'll pick up, but it won't move the arm across the record to start and stop play. So it's kind of a critical part. We reset the control arm and replace the pin that locks it in place. And someone's probably going to mention that I'm not putting the E-clip back on here. Well, I don't have it because the turntable, it was missing. So it won't come off though. This is under tension, but it just needs a little clip like that, which I don't have. And say this one it was missing on. So we've done that. Let's turn the unit over and put the system through its paces and see whether the arm is going to move properly now. Should be all that it needs, because apparently this was checked over by the guy that sold it. He just didn't sell it with the stirrer pimple. So this should move the tone arm now. But the arm is sticking. Why is the arm sticking? Oh, it's off, that's why. Okay. I don't have the, obviously I don't have the cartridge in right now for this, so I don't have to worry about damaging. There we go. It sticks. It sticks. So we have more than just a stir pimple. That's probably why the guy took the stir pimple off and sold it as a manual turntable. This should reject, but it's not going all the way over. Okay, there it goes to the record and sets down. And then it kicks back. Okay, something's pushing the arm back. And that part works, and then it sticks. So we got to see why this thing's sticking. What is causing this thing to stick when it gets right to this point on the return? Is it hitting up against something? It must be touching something. But what? Turn this back over. Be careful not to touch the arm on anything, which is not, so that I can just examine this and see why it's sticking. What is the arm sticking on? Lifts the arm up. That would be to retract the arm all the way back. And then this should move it over. It should move over right to that starting position. it's probably pretty hard to see, but I think I've identified what the arm is sticking on. It's sticking on the lever here that is used. This one here, this little copper lever or copper spring clip. It's what's used. It attaches down right down here. On the bottom side of this, there's another pin. If you notice, when I move the arm over, you can see it. It's operating this mechanism, which is what controls the power switch. When it turns on, it releases, and when you return the arm back, that's what shuts it off. But what I think is happening is when the guy that services this thing, looks like he's bent. You can almost see it. I don't know if you can see it on camera or not, but right down here, it almost looks like there's marks like somebody had crimped it with a plier right there. And this little piece looks to be bent. And I think what's happening when we try to reject it, watch what happens. If I turn it on, okay, go to the end of its travel, and it'll pick up. This is rising a bit, and it's hitting, and it's stopping it from moving right there. It's stopping the arm from coming back until that piece releases. I think this has got a little bit of a bend to it. I'm going to try and straighten it, but that looks to be right there. You can see right where my screwdriver's touching. It almost looks like somebody's crimped that with a pair of pliers and given it a bit of a twist. And I can see it on this side. It's got a bit of a warp to it. And I think that's what's happened. Is the guy that worked on this thing, who sold it to the guy that owns it now, said he restored it, but you know, he sells them a turntable and tells them the auto mechanism's not working properly, and he's removed the stirrer pimple so that it won't move the arm at all, because he knew that he buggered it up. And there's a little piece of wire, it looks like, sticking out here too. Look at that little strand of copper. These mechanisms aren't that complicated, but they're really easy to mess up if you start bending things. I think this is bent. Looks like it's bent a little bit right there, and it's just jamming. And of course, that's what's used to start the unit up, right? It latches in. That's what pulls the switch on when you operate it manually. It's going to hit just like that. If I were to push that down out of the way, it would probably work. And maybe there's a spring missing. That's possible too. It's a possibility that there's a spring that's missing here that pulls this out of the way. I'm going to remove some of the clips here so I can get down there and just investigate. Yeah, that's where it's hitting. It's hitting right here on that raised edge. This is bent. This is too high, and what's happening is the tone arm is slamming into that edge there. I think that needs to be. Oh, it's got a bit of a warp in it. You can see it too. It's got a bit of a warp. I think that's supposed to be more down like this. Okay, that goes down like that. And this goes under here. It sits in there like that. And then this other washer sits on top here. Doesn't even seem like it's the right washer. There's a washer that sits in there. There's a clip that goes over top. Whatever it's going to, I'm just curious as to whether it's going to jam now. Let's just try it out and see. And the music starts playing, and the needle moves across, or the stylus moves across, moves the arm across the record, and we get to the end of the record. It's not going quite all the way back, almost to the home position. And it rests it there, see if it stops when I push stop. We're very close. So stop the record. Okay, now it's moving all the way back. Huh. But it didn't stop it. Getting close, very close. The mechanism's got a bit of bending on it from that copper piece. Now it stops. I should put the needle back on it. Not that this needle's in very good shape. It's kind of got a bit of a bend to it. It's a Shure cartridge that's on there. We'll just plug it in here. I just want to see what it does when I put a record on. Whether it's going to play the record properly. I'm not hooked up to any sound right now. I just want to basically see what it does. There's no needle on this thing. It's just a shank. The actual needle is missing. That's why it didn't. That's why it skated across the record. There's no needle there. Of course, this thing's not balanced properly either. Even with the counterweight all the way out, it's still, and it's set to 0, it's still I guess we have to adjust this out more. And then we'll set it for 2 grams, even though there's no needle to play. That might have been why it was behaving the way it was, because the arm balance was so far off. Okay, so now if there was a needle on there, it would play, but there's no needle, so it's not going to play anything. Pick up. Well, it looks to be working now. You can just imagine that that's what's playing, even though it's the other side of the record. But because there's no tip on the stylus. It's completely missing. But stop. I believe it's almost there. The motor's not shutting off. Now it is. Wonder why that is. Strange. I'm sure it's just adjustment. But it is now dropping the arm where it's supposed to. And it is picking it up. I wonder if I plug this thing in whether it actually would be any type of noise. I can't see anything. It just looks like a metal shank that's sticking down there. I don't know why this thing's not stopping until you move it over like that. Then it stops. It's like it's not dropping it quite far enough back. Coming all the way back when you press stop, just when you put it on when it hits the end of the record. But it's not stopping the motor unless I do that. Weird. Something's not quite right, but it's much better than it was when I started on this thing. When I started on this thing, the arm actually got physically stuck. It would stick right there, like right at the beginning. Well, as you can see, that's the stylus. Yeah, you wonder why we're not getting any sound. Well, there's nothing there to produce sound, so I can't test this thing. See if we're getting any music out of it. All I can do is kind of test it mechanically, and mechanically it's almost working. I'm going to speak to the owner of the unit, see if he's got another stylus that we can try and see how it works. Because of course we're not going to get any sound out of something that has no tip on the stylus, but mechanically wise, it seems to be almost perfect. It's moving over to the right place, and it's dropping in the right place on the record. The cueing arm works, and it's picking up at the end of the record, which is more than it did when he brought it to me because, well, it had no Stewart pimple for one. I get a sneaking suspicion that the guy that sold it to him left the Stewart pimple off and sold it to him as a manual turntable because he knew the problems that he was having trying to get this thing working. So I'm going to close this video off now because we've got the mechanical part pretty much working, with the exception of having to move the arm back to the end like that to stop it. It seems to be dropping or stopping prematurely. I think there's something probably still a bit bent under the mechanism that's going to require further investigation to see what it is and whether it can be corrected, because of course something that's bent on something this age, you can straighten it out, but you're never going to get it perfect. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the guy that sold this to the owner of this knew that that was the problem, because he took it all apart and lubricated it, and I think he knew that there was a problem, and he left the Stewart pimple off and just said, well, the automatic doesn't work, but here, I'm selling it to you as a manual turntable. I got it in much better working condition than when I started, so I'm going to close the video off, leave it at this for now. I'll talk to the owner of it. I'll see whether he wants to go a lot further or whether he's satisfied with it as it is. I have a feeling he'll probably just turn around and sell it and try to make a few dollars on it, because of course these 1219s, they go for a pretty penny. They go for a lot more than they're worth. Okay, I mean, I've seen these things going for hundreds of dollars, and personally I wouldn't give you $50 for one, but that's just me. Just because I got a lot of turntables that are every bit as good as this that I've gotten for nothing. So but the whatever the market will bear, right? And I think that people get caught up in the moment and pay a lot more than they probably should for 40-year-old turntables. But we'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.